I was actually looking at a job posting the other day. They're just browsing, not looking to leave, obviously.
Right, right. Just keeping an eye out.
Exactly. But the first word in the headline was stable. Not exciting, not lucrative, but stable.
Yeah, that really is the ultimate currency right now, isn't it?
It totally is.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like that's what keeps everyone up at night. You just want to know the ground isn't going to crumble beneath you.
But the funny thing is, when we usually say stability, we basically mean stationary.
Right, like planting your feet in concrete, getting that 10-year tenure and just refusing to move.
Yeah, but we have this stack of documents for today's deep dive that argues the exact opposite, basically saying that if you're standing still, you aren't stable at all.
You're a sitting duck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is a completely radical redefinition.
So what exactly are we looking at today?
We're looking through the personal archives of a teacher and entrepreneur named Rhett Burton. And when I say archives, I mean it is a beautifully chaotic mix of stuff.
Oh, yeah, it's wild. We've got business cards, physics diagrams, photos of messy classrooms.
Cartoons of dragons.
Right, and then suddenly these really deep dives into Aristotle. It feels like we're digging through the desk drawer of a mad scientist who also just happens to run a school.
We essentially are. Burton is basically documenting his transition from being this tiny cog in a massive educational machine to building his own independent ecosystem.
Which he calls Burton's School.
Right, and the stability he finds doesn't come from safety or staying put. It comes entirely from motion.
So our mission today is to decode this whole stability narrative he's put together. We need to figure out how a physics diagram, a list of habits from A to H, and a sketch of an ox somehow explain how to build a career that doesn't collapse on you.
Let's get into it, because to understand the solution, we really have to understand the trap he was in first.
Yeah, let's look at where Rhett started. There's a business card right at the beginning of the file for a place called Wonderland Taichi School.
Wonderland. Sounds completely idyllic.
It does, right. But I'm guessing it's not full of talking rabbits and pea parties.
Not exactly, no. The context here is super crucial for you to understand. Taichi, or Daichi as it's often spelled, is a specific district in Seoul, South Korea.
Okay.
And in the world of global education, Daichi is famous. It is the absolute epicenter of academic pressure. It's where all the big hagwons are.
Okay, for the listener who hasn't taught in East Asia or isn't familiar with the system, can you break down what a hagwon actually is?
Sure. It's a private, for-profit cram school. So kids go to their regular public school during the day, and then they go to the hagwon until 10 p.m. or even later to study English, math, science.
Wow.
Yeah, it is incredibly high stakes, high pressure, and big money.
So Rhett is working there. He's listed as a supervisor. And we have this timeline in his notes that he titled My World Tree. It maps out his whole life up to this point.
Yeah, and it starts out pretty typically. You see phases like growing up together or really young.
But then it hits this Wonderland phase.
Yeah.
And the note he makes there is really interesting. He just calls it sustainable work.
Sustainable, that's the key word.
Yeah.
It implies the bills are paid, the routine is set, he's comfortable.
Right.
But if you look at the parenthetical note right next to it, that's the smoking gun for his whole philosophy.
Oh, the part where he writes, teachers teach, none of the other stuff.
Exactly. He was hyper-specialized. He walked into the building, he delivered his lesson, and he walked out.
Which honestly sounds kind of nice.
Right. He didn't have to worry about marketing or making rent or fixing the broken copier.
I think most people would take that deal in a heartbeat.
It feels great right up until the environment changes. And the timeline shows this crack forming. He writes, do I trust the hagwon or try something new?
And he initially tries to just double down on his specialization.
Yeah.
He goes and gets a master's in TESOL.
Teaching English to speakers of other languages.
Yes.
So he's upgrading his core credentials. He's trying to become a super teacher.
He's investing in literally the only asset he thinks he needs.
But then look at the very next entry on the timeline. Job cuts at the public schools.
The floor completely drops out from under him.
This is the first major lesson from the archives. Rhett thought he was stable because he was part of this big, sustainable institution.
Yeah.
But because he was only a teacher, because he did none of the other stuff, when the institution decided to cut costs, he had zero leverage.
He was completely fragile.
Extremely fragile. And the notes describe this period as up, down, all around. It's chaotic. He essentially realizes that relying on someone else's building for your shelter isn't stability at all, it's dependency.
So he decides to build his own shelter.
Yeah.
And we have these two photos in the file comparing the two worlds he lived in.
Yeah, the contrast is stark.
Photo A is this massive concrete elementary school building. It looks like a literal government fortress.
Yeah.
Solid, impenetrable.
And then you have photo B, Burton's school.
Which, let's be honest, looks like a large storage closet.
It's definitely scrappy. It's a small room. There's a whiteboard with Burton's school just handwritten on it in dry erase marker.
There are hanging organizers, a super messy bookshelf with a bottle of spray cleaner just sitting there, a keyboard shoved in the corner.
It looks chaotic. It looks exactly like a startup in a garage.
But the core argument Red is making here is that this messy little room is actually more stable than the giant concrete fortress.
Because he owns the chaos now. In the fortress, he was just a passenger. In the messy room, he's the driver.
And I think this brings us perfectly to the physics stuff, which is kind of wild.
This is the part of the file that I think is just brilliant. He uses a literal wheel diagram to explain why that garage startup chaos is strictly necessary.
Yeah, I was staring at this diagram for a while. It's labeled the path of the CM and path of Q. It seriously looks like something ripped straight out of a high school physics textbook.
It pretty much is. It's analyzing the physical motion of a rolling wheel. CM stands for center of mass, which is the axle of the wheel.
Okay.
And Q is a point on the rim, the actual rubber that touches the road.
Okay, so help me and the listener visualize this. Why on earth does a bicycle wheel explain career stability?
Well, picture a car driving down the highway at, say, 60 miles per hour. If you look at the hubcap, the center of mass, it's moving in a perfectly straight, smooth, horizontal line.
Right.
That straight line is what we all think stability looks like. Consistency. No bumps.
But the rim is doing something else.
The rim is living a totally different, terrifying life.
Hmm.
Point Q hits the pavement at literally zero velocity relative to the ground. It actually stops for a split second to grip the road.
Well,
Then it whips up over the top of the wheel at twice the speed of the car and then slams back down into the pavement again. It's mathematically called a cycloid curve.
so it's just this violent cycle of impact, acceleration, and impact again.
Exactly. And Rhett's note right next to this says, the path of least action, be a wheel.
That is such a heavy metaphor.
It really is. Think about it. To your clients, to your family, to the outside world, you want to be the center of mass.
Yeah.
You want to look reliable. You show up. You are the straight line.
Let's actually be that straight line.
You have to be willing to be the rim. You have to take the impact. In that small Burton schoolroom, Rhett is the rim. He's dealing with the angry parents. He's fixing the broken website, cleaning the whiteboard, worrying about the rent.
All that chaotic motion is literally required to create the illusion of smooth forward movement.
Precisely. That's a really powerful distinction. We usually try to eliminate all the chaos in our jobs. We think the chaos means we're failing.
But he's saying the chaos is the actual mechanism of movement.
If the rim stops spinning, if you stop hitting the pavement, the axle stops moving forward, you're parked. And in this economy, being parked is the most dangerous thing you can do.
Yeah, that connects so well to that other image that jumped out at me. The drawing of the boy and the ox.
Oh, right, with the caption, I am as strong as an ox.
Yeah, it's this really striking illustration of a curly-haired kid wrestling or maybe guiding this massive white ox. It looks like a real struggle.
Well, if the wheel is the mechanics of how you move, the ox is the raw energy required to do it.
So this isn't just one of those work smarter, not harder internet life hacks.
No, not at all. And I love that honesty in his notes. There is no passive income dream here. It takes absolute brute strength to keep that wheel turning every day.
It takes physical endurance to be the rim hitting the pavement over and over.
And emotional endurance, too. Which is why I think there's a song referenced right near this in the notes. Stand By Me by Benny King.
Such a classic song.
It is, but in this context, it feels a bit different. When the night has come and the mountains should crumble, he's talking about building a career that doesn't crumble when the public school suddenly cuts your job.
It's about structural integrity.
Yeah.
He's building a system that stands by him so he doesn't have to beg a boss to stand by him.
Exactly. It's pure endurance.
But then the notes take this weird turn. We go from physics and oxen to ancient Greece. There's this bright yellow block of text with Aristotle just written on it.
Well, you can't talk about the good life without bringing in the Greeks.
Fair enough. But why Aristotle? Rhett is running a tiny study room in Seoul. What's the connection there?
It's about Aristotle's concept of the golden mean. Aristotle believed that virtue isn't about being perfect or being extreme. It's about finding the balance between two opposing vices.
the just right zone.
Exactly. Take courage, for example. If you have too little courage, you're a coward. If you have too much, you're reckless. The actual virtue is right in the middle.
And the notes here mention avoiding being too boorish or too buffoonish.
Yes. Strategic. True. That's the exact phrase he uses.
Right. So for Rhett, stability isn't about working 100 hours a week, because that's excess, right? That's burnout.
But it's not about laziness either. He actually lists friends and fun right alongside habits to build good virtue.
So you have to be a functioning human being, not just a productivity robot. If you're completely miserable, the wheel's going to break.
Or you'll just crack mentally. And I think that leads directly into the book cover he included in the file, The Hermetic Tradition by Julius Evola.
Okay, this one felt very secret society to me.
It's definitely a bit esoteric, but the core idea of Hermeticism is alchemy, transmutation, literally turning lead into gold.
And how did that apply in a career context?
You are turning the lead of your daily grind, the cleaning, the teaching, the admin work, into the gold of self-mastery.
Oh, wow.
He's framing his everyday work not as a boring job, but as a royal art, almost like a spiritual practice.
That's a really heavy way to look at running a cram school.
It is, but it gives meaning to the suffering. If you're just cleaning a toilet, it sucks. But if you're practicing the discipline of the cleaner in order to build your own empire, it's just part of the path.
Speaking of the cleaner, we have to talk about the list.
Ah, the learn and apply section.
Yes, this is the part that totally stopped me in my tracks. It's this alphabetized list, A through H, describing what a modern, stable career actually looks like. And honestly, it's pretty intimidating.
It's the direct antidote to that very first timeline entry. Remember? Teachers teach, none of the other stuff.
Right?
This list is the other stuff.
So let's run through it for you guys listening. Letter A is be a teacher. He writes, help people to see with new eyes. That's obviously the base.
That's his core product. That's what he actually sells to the parents. But in his new framework, that's only 1/8 of his actual job.
Which is crazy to think about. Okay, letter B is be a learner. Tap into curiosity.
That's the input. If you stop learning, the rim stops hitting new pavement. You have absolutely nothing new to sell or teach.
Makes sense. Then C is be a cleaner. Clean and organize. And we saw that spray bottle in the photo of his classroom.
This is the ultimate humility check. If you own the business, you are the janitor. But it's also about mental clarity. You really can't have a stable mind in a filthy, chaotic room. It physically grounds you.
Yeah, that physical grounding is huge. Then D is be a storyteller. Read and tell interesting stories.
That's marketing, pure and simple. If you can't narrate why your school or your product or your skills matter, nobody's going to care. You have to control your own narrative.
Letter E is be a project manager.
Logistics, execution. It's the boring, nitty-gritty stuff that actually makes the wheel turn day to day. Schedules, budgets, deadlines.
And F is be a promoter, which feels similar to storyteller, but a bit more aggressive.
It's sales. And this is honestly where most teachers and most creatives in general completely fail. They think the work will just speak for itself.
And it doesn't.
It never does. You have to be your own hype man. You have to promote.
Okay, G is where it gets really modern. Be a web developer. Build websites and tools. And we see an image of a smartphone screen in his notes right next to this.
This is all about digital sovereignty. Rhett realized he couldn't just rely on some third party to update his site or manage his digital presence. He had to own the code himself.
Because if the web is the new real estate, you need to know how to build your own house on it.
Exactly.
And finally, letter H, be a publisher.
Legacy. This is about putting your ideas into the world in a format that actually lasts. Books, blogs, videos. It moves you from just trading your time for money to creating assets that work for you while you sleep.
It's a massive list. I mean, A through H. Do we really expect one single person to be a web developer, a janitor, a salesman, a project manager, and a philosopher?
Yeah.
It sounds totally exhausting.
Oh, it is exhausting. But here's the core argument he's making. If you are only A, if you're only a teacher, and the market suddenly changes, you're obsolete.
You get cut.
Right. But if you're A, F, and G, you're a Swiss Army knife. You become anti-fragile.
It's like a complete diversification of the self.
Precisely. You become a spider with 8 legs. If one leg gets cut off, say the economy crashes and nobody is buying in-person courses, you still have G, your web developer skills, to fall back on.
You don't just fall over.
Right. Specialization is efficient, sure, but generalization is safe. That's the stability.
But even if you do all of that, even if you master A through H, there's still an element of luck, isn't there?
Always. Which brings us to the game board in his files.
The Yet Nori board. It's a traditional Korean board game, right?
Hmm.
From what I read, it involves throwing 4 wooden sticks to move your tokens around a square track.
Yeah, and it perfectly represents the element of chance in life. You can be the ox, you can be the wheel, you can be the perfect project manager, and you can still just roll a bad number.
The notes actually show these specific hazard icons drawn on the board. A cartoon wolf and a poison bottle.
The wolf is the external threat. The bad economy, the bad boss, a global pandemic, things outside your control.
And the poison.
That's the internal threat. Burnout, cynicism, losing that golden mean we talked about.
But you have to play the game to get the rewards right. Because we also see drawings of an apple, a money bag, and a crown.
It's framing the entire career journey as a hero's journey, or almost like a fairy tale. You don't get the crown, which represents mastery or true authority, without getting past the wolf first.
The game board just reminds us that sometimes you roll a bad number and you land right on the wolf.
And sometimes you land on the apple. But the point is, if you keep throwing the sticks, if you keep that wheel turning and taking the impacts, eventually you make it all the way around the board.
And where does the board actually end? Because there's this beautiful picture of a house at the end of the note. It's a really nice house, stone facade, big tree in the front yard.
That house is the physical manifestation of his world tree. It's home. It's the ultimate stability he's been searching for. It's not just about having a career, it's about what that career actually builds for you, a safe place to be.
The notes explicitly mention this quote. Trees bring up their children slowly.
I loved that line so much.
It really feels like a direct rebuttal to the whole get-rich-quick culture we live in.
It absolutely is. We live in a world obsessed with hacks and shortcuts, and Rhett is looking at a tree and saying, no, this takes real time, real stability, just like a tree, grows ring by ring, year by year. It's organic. It's not something you can just manufacture overnight.
He writes, just around the corner. This image kick-started a dream.
He's keeping his eyes on the prize. The house isn't just a building. It's the tangible result of being the teacher, the cleaner, the promoter, and the ox for years on end.
It's a really holistic view of work. It's not just get a job. It's build a life.
And negotiate contacts. That's another great phrase he drops in there. Manifest ideas by pushing and pulling imagination into reality.
It sounds almost magical.
It is the magic of work. Think about it. Pushing and pulling imagination into reality. That's exactly what an entrepreneur does. You imagine a school where there is none. You push and pull through the brutal physics of the wheel until it suddenly exists in the real world with a physical whiteboard and real students.
And maybe a dragon?
Ah, yes. The red cartoon dragon. We definitely can't forget him.
He's breathing fire, looking, well, a little dangerous. Is that supposed to be another hazard? Like another wolf?
I don't think so, actually. In this framework, I think the dragon is his ambition. It's the raw energy that made Rhett quit that comfortable, sustainable job at Wonderland in the first place.
It's a dangerous energy, though.
Extremely dangerous. It can burn your entire life down if you let it run wild.
But you need it?
You absolutely need it to power the ox. If you kill the dragon, you become complacent. You just stay at the Hagwon forever doing the bare minimum. You have to tame the dragon. You have to ride it.
So Burton's school is basically just a dragon-powered engine.
Exactly. You harness that fire to turn the wheel.
So let's try to pull this whole stability narrative together for the listener, because it's a lot of moving parts.
It really is.
We started with the idea that stability isn't standing still.
Right. Stability is a highly dynamic state. It's the center of mass moving forward in a smooth, straight line, only because the rim is doing the hard, cyclical work of slamming into the pavement.
And to keep that wheel moving, you need the brute strength of the ox and the emotional support of a stand-by-me mindset.
And you need to find that Aristotelian golden mean,
No.
balancing your virtues, avoiding the extremes of being a bore or a buffoon.
And practically speaking, the nuts and bolts of it.
Yeah.
You can't just be a specialist anymore. You can't just teach.
No. You must embrace the A through H. You have to be the cleaner and the web developer. You have to be humble enough to literally scrub the floor and arrogant enough to promote yourself to the world.
And all of this is played out on a game board where luck definitely plays a role, but where the ultimate goal is that stone house, that slow-growing tree.
That is the true architecture of a stable career. It's built, it's not found.
You know, I'm looking at that A to H list again. Teacher, learner, cleaner, storyteller, project manager, promoter, web developer, publisher.
It is a daunting list to look at all at once.
It is. But I want to ask you, the listener, to look at that list in your own mind's eye right now. We all have a letter we're really comfortable with. Maybe you're an amazing project manager,
Mm.
or you just love being the learner.
But where is the gap?
Exactly. Which letter are you actively ignoring? Are you refusing to be the promoter because you think sales is gross and beneath you? Are you neglecting to be the cleaner of your own systems?
Or maybe you've completely stopped being the publisher, and now you're just invisible to your industry.
My guess is, if you feel unstable right now in your work, if you feel like the wind could just blow you over tomorrow, it's not because the world is shaking. It's because one of those letters is missing from your alphabet.
That's a really powerful thought. The missing letter is basically a broken spoke in your wheel.
So go find your missing letter, be the ox, and keep the wheel spinning.
And find your golden mean.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.